YouTube, what is happening, and welcome back to another video. In this video today, I'm going to be showing you the best Season 2 controller and graphic settings. I'll be giving you a deep dive into my own settings and why those settings are useful to be changed. Things such as aiming sensitivity, field of view, and many others. If you enjoy this video today, don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll be honest, the viewers recently have been insane, so I do appreciate all the support. Thank you. Without further ado, let's get into the video. Right then, let's get into the settings then. We're going to start off with the controller settings to begin with. So this is what I use. Many people are different with what they use with their controller settings, but this is what I use. Yeah, to begin with, obviously, aim and input device, you want to make sure you select controller, because if you do all the controller settings and have it on mouse and keyboard, it's not going to work. The button layout I use is stick and move. This is preferential, honestly. Like, use what you want to, use what's best for you. I'm quite weird. I've been using this since for dance, because I've kind of kept it, but there's quite a few people that use tactical or default based on what controller they've got. If you've got a scuff controller, the best one I've seen is tactical, but I use stick and move just because it's easier for my fingers, if that doesn't sound weird. So stick layout preset I've left on default. I honestly wouldn't bother changing this. None of these are beneficial for anyone. Horizontal stick sensitivity, I'm using 1.8, 1.8. This is changed from what it used to be. I will put the image on screen now on what these equivalent to, but I believe this is 7.7 in the old senses. If you never played the old CODs, you won't know what I'm on about in the different senses, but this game 1.8, 1.8 is what I use. I feel like it's the most balanced. I feel like 6.6 on the old senses, which is 1.6 on the new senses, is too slow, and then 8.8 on the old senses, which is 1.9 on the new senses, is too fast. So 1.8, 1.8 or 7.7 is kind of a middle ground. Moving down, you want all of these settings on off. Some people prefer to play with bumper shooting. It's completely up to you, just whatever suits your hand better. Controller vibration, definitely have off. Trigger effects off. This changes the reactiveness of your controller. You want to be able to get your shots off as quickly as possible, but with trigger effects, it makes it so you have to hold your button down for longer, and the responsiveness isn't the maximum it could be. By having them off, they are. Moving on to the dead zone inputs now, I have my left stick minimum on 2, just because I have a slight little bit of stick drift on my left stick. Same again with the right stick minimum, I have a little bit of stick drift on my right stick, so I put it up to 5. With the right stick, you don't want to go any higher than 10, just because it throws off your aim, your stick becomes a little bit less reactive. Left stick max I have on 76. Usually on older CODs I would have had this on 99 or 100, but on this game, pros such as Simp, for example, have explained that your controller seems to feel better with 76 left stick max. Then with right stick, we're sticking with 99, just because there's no change in this game compared to previous ones, so it's better to just keep it the same. I also tested it as well, and 99 is definitely the best you could have. And then left trigger and right trigger, make sure you have on 0. As it says on the screen there, set how much the right trigger or left trigger must be pressed to be considered. Moving on to your aiming settings now, we start off with sensitivity multiplier. Now, this is very important. Do not change any of these, and we'll revisit that later. Looking version, have on standard. Aiming advanced settings, what you want to do is go onto it. Obviously, looking version, have off. ADS sense, have that on instant. It's manually set to gradual, but have that on instant for the best reactive time possible. Leave the third person ADS as it is, and then aim response curve type. This is very changeable based on what you feel. However, I've been using linear this year as opposed to last year. I was using dynamic. I feel like linear is a little bit better for people who can shoot straight, for example, just because it's very specific aim assist type. So this feels nicer. And then I have the aim response curve slope scale on 0.31. So as I said previously, the sensitivity multiplier we did want to touch because of this setting right here. Custom sensitivity per zoom you want to have on, and then you can do all the settings manually to suit your needs. So if we go back to the other one, for example, these are very specific. You have very little room to tweak with that setting. However, if we go to this one, you can, for example, change them to what you want individually, as opposed to having one big setting. Now, I know I take that for granted because I have all got them on the same in this one, but sometimes, for example, I like to change my low zoom up to 0.9. I usually sometimes change my 2 to 3 zoom down to 0.8. It's just a lot more specific and variable, as opposed to having one setting that changes all of them. Moving on to the movement settings now. Now, these settings are for Warzone. So you want tactical sprint assist on, sprint assist sideways on, sprint backwards on. If you're playing challenges, for example, this is GA'd, just have sprint assist on, and then you can have single tap run on, for example. Mantle assist off. There's nothing more annoying than mantling something whilst you're trying to jump mid gunfight. Crouch assist have off, just because you don't need help crouching realistically, just use the button. Corner slice I have off. I have this off just because it makes Call of Duty feel a little bit more towards Rainbow Six Siege when you can bend around corners. I also don't think it benefits you in any way. Like it says at the top of the screen there, corner slice does not affect your aim. There's no point in having it on. Slide and dive behavior, I use hybrid. This is basically just a combination of all the other 4 options into one. If you can master hybrid, it makes your movement so much cleaner, and I would highly recommend changing to it if you're not already on it. Automatic airborne mantle we have on, sprint restore on, slide maintain sprint on. Parachute automatic behavior I have off. I believe it defaults as free fall when you're diving into Warzone maps, for example. You want to make sure you are as close to the ground as possible before you pull your parachute, just for the maximum time to shoot your gun, obviously after you land if you're getting contested. Mantle cancel reload I have on. I don't find myself mantling in situations where I need to reload, so I have that on, but you can mess around with that setting for yourself and see what suits you. Moving on to the movement advanced settings now. Not many of these I've changed, just apart from tactical sprint activation. I've just changed that to single tap sprint. Realistically, if you're using tactical sprint assist anyway, single tap sprint doesn't matter. It's just a bit of security, just having that available if you feel like it's not working properly. Finally, moving on to the combat settings. I'm not going to read all these out because I've not changed any of them realistically. The one I would definitely recommend changing, if it's not changed, is armor plate behavior. Have it on apply all as opposed to apply one, and then the rest of the settings are the same. Just quickly, in the combat advanced setting as well, I've not changed many of these bar the interact and reload behavior. Make sure that is on prioritize interact. Moving on to your graphics settings now. These are arguably the most important settings to maximize FPS and quality in game. Your display mode, you want to have it on full screen exclusive. This might just be a personal thing of mine, but I believe whilst being on exclusive, you get less input lag as opposed to using borderless, for example. If you use full screen exclusive, it also feels like your bullet hit reg is slightly better. Like I said, I don't know if it's a mental thing, but I would definitely recommend changing to it if you're not already using it. Display monitor, make sure that's obviously set to your gaming monitor. It should be if you've loaded the game up before. Display adapter, make sure it's on your main graphics card. You know, sometimes here, for example, this AMD graphics card here is my motherboard. We don't want to connect to that. We want to make sure it's our main graphics card, which in my case is the 4070 Ti. Screen refresh rate, I can't emphasize this enough. This needs to be the highest possible refresh rate it can be. So for example, if you look at mine, I have the option of 60, 120 and 240. To get the best performance out of my monitor, I want it on the highest possible it can be. If you don't know what your refresh rate is for your monitor, see the manual for the monitor or go online and Google your monitor and figure out what you've got. As well as that, you can look into the display settings of your monitor as well. That will also have your screen refresh rate. Display resolution, I have it on 1440 because that is the display resolution of my monitor. Some people may have it in 1080. That is just dependent on monitor. Sometimes as well, if you're having performance issues with a 1440p monitor, for example, your computer is not good enough to support 1440p, then you can change it to 1080p on your 1440p monitor and your game runs a lot smoother. But obviously, that is completely dependent on your computer. My gamma and brightness settings, I have at 55. If you crank it all the way up to the top, you still can't see people in corners anyway, so you may as well just not blind yourself and have it relatively low. NVIDIA reflex low latency I've got on plus boosted. The sustainability settings don't really matter, however I prefer to cap my frames in the menu. I believe it maximizes performance in the game as well. Then the rest of the settings in sustainability and the HDR settings do not change. Moving on to arguably the most important settings that you'll have in this video. So yep, just make sure your render resolution is your monitor's. It has it in the brackets on the left there, as you can see. So for example, I am 1440p. For you, that might say 1080. Don't stretch your render resolution higher than 100. So for example, if I was on 1440p and my computer was struggling to support 1440p, the 100 I would change down to 75 because that supports 1080p, which will help the performance of your computer whilst playing. Dynamic resolution, have that off. Your upscaling sharpening, make sure you have it on Fidelity FX CAS. As it says on the right there, it enhances the sharpness of the image. When you press show more, go down to Fidelity CAS strength and max it all the way to the top. This is the best looking upscaling sharpening setting you can have in the game. These 4 settings right here I would leave as they are. Your VRAM target, if you find yourself scanner repairing an awful amount, then I would maybe lower this. I believe it starts at 90, but if you lower it from me, for example, I've gone it down to 80. If it's still crashing, take it down to 75 or 70, whatever minimizes the crashes. Moving on to the details and texture section, what I have done is made everything low as possible. This maximizes FPS and the game still looks good anyway. Texture resolution are very low, antioscopic filter low, depth of field off. You know, all of these settings we have off, low, low. Shader quality I've kept at medium just because you kind of need to see the shadows. It does help. On demand texture streaming, make sure that is minimal. This takes a massive chunk of performance of your computer to have at the optimized rate. Make that lower. As well as local texture streaming quality, make sure that's on low as well. I'm just going to quickly scroll through the rest of the settings for you in this video. If I'm going too fast, then please pause the video and look at the settings for yourself. There you go. Moving on to view settings now. Motion reduction preset, obviously have that off. Field of view for Warzone especially, I use 120 field of view. This is the best as you can see more on the map, and that is the idea, to see more. However, if your computer is struggling, for example, a way to get better frames is just to lower it slightly, lower it to where you feel like you are comfortable with. I know quite a few people on Warzone use 110 or 113, for example, but whatever is best for you. ADS field of view, have that unaffected. Weapon field of view, have that on default. Third person field of view, I believe this starts lower. I've just cranked it up to have it high. Vehicle field of view, I've got that on default. Please, 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 I can't stress this enough. Turn your motion blurs off. It will hurt your eyes. First person and third person camera movement, make sure that's at least 50%. Once again, can't stress this enough. These two settings are really important. Like it says on the right there, lowering the settings can value motion sickness for some players. It reduces the shake of your screen when you're shooting, for example, which will increase the accuracy of your aim. Third person ADS transition and inverted flashbang, have that on off. I'm not going to do a deep dive into the audio settings because everybody has different things. So I'm going to move straight on to your interface settings. You won't have to change many of these, but some of these can be crucial whilst playing. So I've not changed any of these bar the telemetry. As you can see top left, I've got the essentials, so FPS, GPU temps and time. In game as well, it also shows server latency and packet loss. This just shows your connection to the servers. If you've got packet loss, for example, you can reset your game and hopefully that will disappear. Readability, I've changed none of these settings. Don't worry about that. People do mess around with the color customization of pings, you know, your enemy teams, your team, party, enemy, for example. I've left it as normal just because it is the usual Call of Duty colors that I've been used to for quite a while now. For example, if you are colorblind or struggling to see certain colors, you can definitely change this to suit your needs. Moving on to the interface, the HUD bounds once again are whatever you want them to be. I've not changed mine. However, some people like to have these in really close, for example, but for me, I just have them on the end. Minimap shape, have on square. You can see more as opposed to the round minimap shape. Minimap rotation, have on. I have player names on full name. For example, on the right there, you can see more of the name, which means if you don't see the person, but sometimes the gamer tag will show up so you know where they are without seeing them, if that makes sense. Crosshair, make sure you have it on center dot, or you could also have it on static. I have it on center dot just because, as you can see in the first image on the left there, the little lines sometimes get in the way. Obviously, it's a very, very, very minor detail. Showing more on the crosshair as well. Center dot scale, I have on large. I feel like a bigger center dot it's easier to see, for example, but it's also not as big as the biggest one. You don't want it on large, just because obviously it takes up too much of your screen. Once again, I've not changed my crosshair color. If you feel like it may benefit you to change your crosshair color, then do so. In the rest of the settings, I've kept the same. Thank you for watching this video, and if you found this video useful, make sure to like and subscribe. Have a great day.